Hello, everyone. I'm Morgan Le Gouyadère, and I'm pleased today to do this presentation on behalf of our team, who is in France, IMT Atlantique. There is a light difference between what's appearing on the program and the final title, which sometimes happens. This one is a little more ethnographical, I would say, but it's in relation, of course. So I quote an interviewee who says, "A part of me will always be suspicious. Citizens, the media and democracy," and we are talking about the case of France. So this is going to be very in relation with what has been presented previously. I'm not going to say more things about the MEDEMAP project because I think that we have presented it already. But what I would insist on is that our team has been covering 3 fieldworks with 3 different categories of actors. And today, what I would like to present is a work that we have been doing, crossing the words of the media on one side and the words of the citizens on the other. So this presentation is going to aim to examine the echoes and connections between both categories of actors, media and citizens. Crossing citizens' points of view with those of journalists and media managers led us to a main research question, which is, how do we understand the citizens' trust crisis towards the media? And to what extent do the citizens in media have different points of view on the democratic role of the media? So we've already said a few words about it, thanks to Nico and Vaya and others' presentations, but I would like to insist on a few things that are really related to what we have found empirically speaking. When we talk about democracy, we talk about a project and something that is unrealized and unstable. And of course, we talk about the representative democracy as it exists in its hegemonic model in Europe. When we talk about media, we talk about in the democratic functions of the media, we talk about those 5 roles that have been mentioned before as well. And I would like to insist on the fact that we understand media as a means of perception, understanding, dissemination, and communication. So I would like to go straight to the point with extracts from the interviews, but it's important to remind that we have been following an ethnographical method, like conducting semi-structured interviews with, on one side, citizens, more than 10 interviews with different people respecting social and political diversity. We also have conducted 4 focus groups, as the other teams have realized as well. And from the media side, we conducted 12 interviews with 6 media types. Among the interviewee, we had 30% of women, which is quite representative of the percentage of women who are practicing journalism in the media sector, at least in France. And among those 6 media types, so we have the audiovisual sector, which includes public and private press, community media, pure players, and local and regional medias. I would insist on the fact that we have included 1 minority language community media and 1 overseas department media. So let's start with the citizens' perceptions of democracy and media. What we have found to start with is that the citizens have a very philosophical and civic definition of the ideal democracy. Here you see some words in French which I will translate, which come from one of the focus groups which we have done. So when we ask them what democracy is, they tend to give very formal words such as liberty, history, justice, referendum, majority vote, people, etc. But then comes the reality. It means that people make a real difference between the definition as they would have learned it at school or in the dictionary and the way they've experienced it. So they say that after having tried to trust democracy, they usually are disappointed, and that democracy would work better if, for example, we would get to another republic in France, if people's points of view would be taken in account, etc. Another element which came out very interesting and very important through the ethnographical fieldwork with citizens is that social and identity trajectories such as migration experience, gender, social class, political views of the world enter into or have an impact on the way they perceive not only democracy, but also the media. I will share with you one quotation from a citizen who emigrated to France around 7 years ago from Latin America. Here he says, "Yes, who is the citizen? Who can be a citizen? And it is, as before, the rich. I don't have the right to vote in France, that's okay. And for quite a while I have not exercised my right to vote in my country of origin. I remain a bit of a citizen, a bit in between. We are in a democracy. How? With 10 million votes in a country which has 40 or 50 million citizens, we manage to elect someone. But it is a system, in my opinion. It is just a system which supports the status quo, which is precisely linked to the colonial model since the discovery in 1492. So that was just an example to illustrate the impact of social trajectories on their perceptions. Then one of the main findings as well of this ethnographical fieldwork is that according to citizens, politics and the media are joined by one specific aspect is that they are both disconnected elites from the common reality, and because they are disconnected from citizens' realities, citizens do not feel represented by politicians or by the media. Then we come to the second point, which I named a silent dialogue. What we have wanted to do is create a silent dialogue between, on one side, the citizens, and on the other, medias. Because actually, you will see it, citizens say and perceive and experience things through the media, and sometimes the media will agree without knowing what citizens think, will agree with citizens' perceptions, or sometimes disagree. Let's see, for example, citizens in a focus group say, under the pretext of being the first, they, so the media, they say anything. But we have, for example, a manager from a pure player media who says, so we check, we double check. Too bad if we are not the first on deck, but the only thing I do not forgive is false information. Another journalist, it doesn't appear here, but another journalist from public service media was saying that the worst enemy of journalism is indeed speed. Then we have citizens that criticize the media because they find that there are too many opinions, too many biases, and that we do not make the difference between presenters on one side and editorialists on the other. Well, journalists have nuanced points of view. They say, for example, that they seek out all points of view, that actually it's one integrated reflex in their practice. Then another journalist says that, for example, some programs indeed do not let or do not permit conditions that are going to be favorable for the debate. For example, she says, it's a journalist from public service, and she says, it's a fairly short debate talking about the program. It's on around 10 minutes. It encourages a bit of invective and not necessarily very verified information. So we are really in the opinion, and we find that it is not diverse enough in terms of political point of view. A comment that is also done by another journalist from private media this time. So we see there that sometimes media and citizens' perceptions are converge. Then we have citizens that are really expecting some debates and good conditions for debates. And media say, well, yes, we, for example, we are going to produce some good conditions for good contradictory debates. For example, if we invite an Israeli, we will then invite a Palestinian and so on. But then some citizens, for example, on the left side, say that sometimes the conditions of the debate lead to some very violent dialogues. And we have journalists who precisely have been criticizing also the conditions, their own conditions to create the debate. For example, we have a journalist who says, do we just want to put on a show because in fact we are going to put tourists in an arena? So it's hard for them to find the right conditions to make the debate happen. Then another thing which is important is that the journalists in the audiovisual sector in France have to respect some special rules, and depending on the results of the elections, we'll have to put in a debate two different people or two different politicians who have radically opposed opinions. Then last thing, citizens think that they want to hear more citizens' words and less experts' words. But it's not that easy for the media to give the word to citizens, as they have to respect certain forms for disseminating the information. For example, we have a journalist who says finding someone who has a speech sufficiently articulated to express a well-constructed thought is complex. So yes, we have filters. Yes, we have to do a selection. I'm going to go straight to the conclusion, but what we can see here in this one of the last slides is that citizens are also complaining about over-information, about anxiety-provoking information, and that they really have a question about the amount of information and the subjects that are treated. So finally, what we have understood through the crossing of these two fieldworks is when we want to answer to this question, we understand that 6 variables will have an impact on the relationship between citizens and the media. The choice of the subjects, the over-information and anxiety-provoking information, the too much opinion, violence, the violence of the debate, for example, the lack of representation, and who do the media give the word to. The main observation that we have done is that the democratic role of the media is difficult to guarantee because of the existing gap between citizens and media. That we recommend new public spaces for more interactivity between media and citizens, better transparency between facts and opinion, a development of a positive journalism, I had to go very quickly on it, and then the promotion of more media literacy toward the research action journalism dynamic. And this is the last one. We see that citizens express the need for support. I quote, and I will end with this. That's the news, and so it's difficult to understand. There is no one who will come and explain to us what that means, what influence it can have on people's daily lives, while the media can help us to take a step back from it, place it in a historical, political context. It gives us perspective. And media wants to respond to this need. For example, we have one manager who says, we need to re-educate the public a little to explain what is a media with professional journalists versus social media that spread anything. So our conclusion is that also the majority of editors-in-chief also place considerable emphasis on the epistemic and educational aspects inherent to journalism as a significant solution to the trust crisis facing the media. And to finish with this conclusion, I've put it in relation with one of the quotations in Nico Carpentier and Jeffrey Wimmer's book, quoting Derrida, who says that there is no democracy without any right to philosophy. So, thanks for your attention.